Hello and welcome, friends, to another episode of Bharat and Geopolitics, where we dive into the global events shaping the India's future. I am your host here, Hardeep, and today we'll be discussing a topic that has captured international attention: the escalating diplomatic tension between India and Canada, following the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accusations about India's involvement in the killing of Khalistani activist HardeepSinghNijjar. The two nations find themselves at the critical crossroads. We will explore the implications of these allegations, the history of Khalistan movement, and what this means for India's standing in the global community. To help us unpack this complex issue, we have an esteemed guest with us today, Dr. Adityanjee. Dr. Adityanjee is the President of Council for Strategic Affairs. Dr. Adityanjee brings a wealth of knowledge on international relations and India's geopolitical strategy. So welcome, Dr. Adityanjee. We are thrilled to have you on this show.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha. I'm pleased to be on your platform. This is a very, very serious issue as far as foreign policy, international relations, and geopolitics all combined. I hope we clarify the issues.
Yeah, sir. This is a very hot topic, and this is catching so many eyeballs actually. So my first question to you: how has Canada's lenient stance on pro-Khalistani elements impacted India's internal security? Should India have acted diplomatically sooner? So what is your comment, sir?
I think India has taken certain actions. What you're trying to say that should India have taken much more forceful actions sooner
Yeah,
rather than just leave it the way it was.
yeah,
I tell you that since 1983, when Air India Kanishka was brought down by Khalistani terrorists
yeah,
on the Atlantic Ocean, India has been demanding from Canada accountability, which has been sadly lacking. And that is from the time of not just Mr. Justin Trudeau, but his father and a previous Conservative Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney.
yeah,
Even at that time, the extradition requests for the perpetrators was denied by various successive Canadian administrations.
yeah,
The killers of almost 329 citizens of the world, which included 269 Canadian citizens, 24 British citizens, US citizens, and Indian citizens, they went scot-free, except for one person who was jailed for a few years and then released. So India has made diplomatic requests for taking actions against terrorists. India had put an extradition request for Nijjar also.
yeah,
And since 2003 onwards, various Indian governments, whether they were, NDA governments or UPA governments, had made more than 20 extradition requests for terrorists that have found sanctuary and safe harbor in Canada.
yeah,
And it's not only India. Canadian governments, and I'm not just blaming Justin Trudeau, have given sanctuary to killers of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman.
yes,
There was one Colonel Chowdhury who machine gunned Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, I think in 1974.
yeah,
And for last 25 years, he is living scot-free in Canada. Repeated requests for extradition by Sheikh Hasina government in Bangladesh went unheeded.
yeah,
Similarly, LTTE terrorists found sanctuary in Canada. Nazis found sanctuary in Canada, Nazi war criminals.
Yeah.
So Canada is sheltering criminals, gangsters, drug dealers, and terrorists, and actually convicted killers. Because Mujibur Rahman's killer was a convicted criminal who had been awarded death sentence. Canada has provided sanctuary to that person. The byline is that if you live by sword, you die by sword.
Yes.
If you support terrorism in a different country, you will be afflicted with terrorism. Canada is on the way to become a Western Pakistan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
What is happening in Pakistan that they are now facing serious terrorism problems domestically, having fostered it across the border in India
Yeah.
and some other places. Uh, Pakistan is having terror problem. They cannot, hold their provinces together because of, indigenous freedom struggles coupled with terrorism. That is what is happening in Canada. Drug gangs are, fighting with each other. The law and order situation is pretty bad. So India did what India could do, short of disrupting the diplomatic relationship,
Yeah.
which is a prudent thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So my concern was only India. This didn't take any impactful action actually previously. So that was the concern.
I think India should have taken maybe a little bit stronger action when Trudeau went to the Canadian Parliament and gave a, uh, statement, blaming India for whatever is happening in Canada. I think that was the time we should have called the bluff rather than at this point in time. But remember, at that point in time, India expelled
Yeah.
40 Canadian diplomats. Canada was also hobnobbing with the uh, antisocial elements in India that were bent upon creating mayhem, whether that was Shaheen Bagh agitation or so-called farmers agitation that was being funded from Canada. And in fact, Justin Trudeau was very profusive in praising those antisocial agitators and giving them moral support. So India should have called the bluff at that point in time and should have taken a much more stronger action. Uh, but that's a lot of water that has passed
Yeah.
under the bridge.
So, sir, what are the long-term implications of Canada's this assassination allegation on India's global image and its relationship with other Western nations?
Look, people can keep on making allegations. Anybody can make allegations.
Yeah.
Pakistan keeps on making allegations every year, United Nations General Assembly, any international forum, wherever they can get opportunity. But Pakistan is thoroughly exposed. And my guess is that, yes, it is a temporary kind of distraction for India's foreign policy. But apart from the what I call Five Eye countries, these Anglo-Saxon, security and espionage alliance countries, nobody else is going to take Justin Trudeau very seriously. And Justin Trudeau is hiding behind the skirt of the Five Eye countries that, oh, they have told me, they have given me some information. Yes, they will be temporary issues, but Justin Trudeau is not a well-respected leader worldwide. And Justin Trudeau's domestic approval ratings are very low. He's on his way out. He's heading a minority government at this point in time. Some of this drama is being played towards domestic vote bank because elections are due in 2025. The only reason the elections are not due this year because the opposition party that is supporting him, NDP, of a Khalistani separatist, Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal,
Yeah.
is not willing to, have a no confidence motion or let the government fall because Jagmeet Singh himself is waiting for his parliamentary pension to be, vested by 2025. So he has a personal interest there. So he will not let this government fall, although he has withdrawn the support. On the other hand, if you see, Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party lost two successive parliamentary elections, one in June, one in now, and both in different geographies, one in Toronto, one in Montreal. Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party's more than 20 MPs have signed a letter
Yeah,
3 days ago demanding change of leadership within the Liberal Party because they are afraid that he will sink them, all of them together. Uh, the Canadian citizens are not very happy with what Justin Trudeau is doing.
I
And
see.
by Canadian citizens, I will tell you the mainstream Canadians, not Khalistani, not the Sikh, the
Yeah.
group of Sikh Khalistani supporters in Canada. So the law and order is very bad. There's housing shortage. The prices of groceries are very high. There is rampant drug dealings going on. There is a lot of criminal activities, including prostitution and all. And Justin Trudeau could not be bothered about all these things. And he's basically playing a political drama by enacting all this, hoping to salvage his reputation, hoping to salvage the vote bank that has consistently supported him, and hoping that he will be able to retain his government till next year's parliamentary elections. So, this is a lot of political drama that is going on in Canada.
What I find how low is this the personal interest of these politicians are making the international ramifications actually.
I think everybody realizes that. I have been reading some of the Canadian newspapers and other commentary. In fact, I was reading a op-ed piece by Michael Rubin,
Yeah,
who is based in US
yeah.
and works for a think tank called American Enterprise Institute, which is a right-wing think tank. He wrote in First Post saying that India should actually declare Canada as a state sponsor of terrorism.
Yeah.
And this is not me saying it. This is Michael Rubin saying it, who is an American, white American citizen, works for a conservative think tank. So people are able to see. Justin Trudeau has always kept his personal interests above the interests of his nations, and most of the people can see his approval rating is in low 20s. The opposition party, the Conservative Party leader, Pierre Provier, he is 20 points ahead of Justin Trudeau. So if parliamentary elections are held today in Canada, Justin Trudeau will be trounced and decimated. He might not even be able to keep his own seat.
So what do you think, sir? Why does Canada continue to provide sanctuary to groups like Khalistan movement? And how should India respond to these perceived threats to its sovereignty?
So I think I would like to point out that it is not just Canada that has provided sanctuary to Khalistani terrorists. We
Yeah.
had similar problem with UK.
Yeah.
We continue to have in India similar problem with US government. The only two so-called Anglo-Saxon governments that have shown some reform are Australia and New Zealand that are not falling into this trap, although they are part of the Five Eye Alliance, intelligence espionage alliance. But India has had problems with the Western imperialist nations
Right.
about nurturing terrorism on Indian soil.
True.
And if I may also take some names, countries like Norway have also, nurtured Tamil separatism in Sri Lanka, supported them financially, provided them sanctuaries and things like that. So it's not Canada alone. So you have to see that it's the imperialist nations, white Anglo-Saxon nations that have historically targeted India. So it's part of the same reflection. Now, Justin Trudeau is basically not a mature politician.
Yes.
He was parachuted by his party because of his good looks
Mm.
and youth, that maybe he'll be able to get more votes because of his, you know, uh, you may call it beauty, his beauty and, good looks, etc., and his youth. So he was a kind of, music and drama teacher, and he's creating drama. He's creating drama.
So finally, I am coming to my last question. Will the
Mm.
diplomatic row with Canada affect India's trade and strategic interests? How should India balance security concerns with the economic ties? So what do you say about it?
India is the fifth largest nation in terms of GDP now. India has already displaced UK from fifth position to sixth position. India is the fifth position. Fourth position is Japan, third position is Germany, and I can tell you by 2027, the estimates are that India would be the third largest nation in terms of GDP after United States and China. So India is on an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
Canada's GDP at this point is $2.14 trillion. Canada is ninth or 10th in the GDP. So India's economy is much stronger. India has much bigger markets. The bilateral trade is meager $8 billion. That does not affect India. And, it's kind of balanced trade. A number of Canadian companies have invested, so there's an investment of around $54 billion by Canada. But in this day and age, you cannot immediately remove the investments. Actually, any kind of further trade repercussions would be bad for Canada, not so much for India, because India's economy is much bigger, much more resilient. Now, I can tell you how it's going to hurt Canada. Canada gets a large number of Indian students,
Yes.
you know, a majority of them from Punjab and Haryana.
Yeah.
Now, the students from Punjab may continue to go, some selectively, but others will stop. Canadian economy is so bad that there were 3,000 students, Indian students, who applied for dishwashing job in a restaurant in Brampton, and there was a huge line. There's homelessness.
Yeah.
So the Canadian dream of some young Indians from northern states is no longer going to be materialized. And in fact, they will be better off in India starting some, you know, industry or small scale enterprise rather than going to Canada, because some of them spend so much of money going there in the garb of being a student, although sometimes they don't actually study and try to get the jobs and things like that. Law and order situation is very bad. So with the students, large chunk of India's foreign exchange goes to Canada to pay the fees, the living expenses, and everything legally. Now that would be denied because students will go to more safer places, more stable places like US or UK or Australia or Canada, if at all they have to go. So who will be the loser? Loser would be the Canadian government. So any economic downside would be more hurtful for Canadian economy rather than Indian economy. Canada does not export to India any ammunition or hardware at this juncture.
Yeah.
So again, your strategic interests will not be affected to a large extent. But Canada will continue to do this song and dance sequence that you may have seen when Justin Trudeau did a 45 minutes press conference with his foreign minister Melanie Joly and internal security minister by name Dominique LeBlanc. And if you saw their conduct in that press conference, they were laughing, they were joking, they were totally non-serious about it and making wild allegations. The worst thing is that the Royal Mounted Canadian Police
Yeah.
gave a very political statement trying to implicate not just India's diplomats. In fact, some of the diplomats that have been implicated came to Canada after the murder of HardeepSinghNijjar.
Yeah.
And that guy, his application for Canadian citizenship was denied 2 or 3 times uh, because he was involved in shady activities. And then suddenly, his citizenship application was fast tracked and request for extradition was denied. So, yes, there are other considerations happening. Justin Trudeau gave the statement in Canadian Parliament in September of 2023. This is October of 2024. Still not, there's a shred of hard evidence.
Yeah.
On saying we have the evidence, but we cannot reveal it. What good is that evidence that you cannot reveal to government of India? You keep on saying, yes, the law will take its process, the indictments would be there. But if you are harboring criminals and gangsters in your own country and they are fighting amongst each other for whether for drug trade or for the offerings that is done in gurdwaras, because there's a gang fight how to control the gurdwaras, Sikh temples. Because all these Khalistani elements, they want to control Gurdwara because they want to control the offerings which come in bulk, in large amounts. So yes, it is somewhat inconvenienced. It will definitely affect the, visitors of Canadian citizens coming to India or Indian citizens going to Canada because the sanctioned diplomatic strength for each High Commission was 21 diplomats. India had kicked out 41 last year because Canada was keeping a huge size High Commission. So out of 21, if you subtract 6, it brings down to 14 or 15. And that is not enough to do visa processing and other things, diplomatic functions that diplomats do. Canada is trying to cut its own nose to spite its face. That is what is happening.
So, sir, finally, do you have any suggestion for the government of India for dealing with Canada actually at this point?
I think government of India should remain firm, should continue to take a principled, consistent stance, and take proportionate responses. And rather than showing patience with this, histrionic politician
Yeah.
who is facing his kind of political survival
Yeah.
of his political career, I think call the bluff. If it means, downgrading diplomatic relations,
Mhm.
and even for whatever reason, closing down the Canadian High Commission temporarily,
Yeah.
I think that will send a message. And I would not discount Michael Rubin's op-ed piece.
Mhm.
Why cannot government of India declare Canada as state sponsor of terrorism? You have hard evidence. They are trying to connect their internecine gang warfare that is happening on Canadian soil to government of India. Government of India does not control the gangs that are rampant on Canadian streets. You can take the name of Bishnoi gang or whatever, but gangs are gangs. They are not instruments of government, or any government for that matter.
So finally, sir, I have one question of mine.
Hmm.
I think our Prime Minister has a changed attitude now. He doesn't try to take any tough decisions on any matter actually, even the domestic matter or international matters. Any tough decision he tried to avoid it.
I would not tell the Prime Minister of India what to do or how to do his job. That's his prerogative. I don't think it was a wise move to meet Trudeau in Laos
Okay.
on the sidelines of ASEAN meeting.
Hmm.
because then he was able to use that meeting to perpetuate his tale of lies. So there was some sort of, lapse, I would say. Similarly, what is being alleged in Washington Post by Canadian side
Yeah.
that Canada's national security advisor and a deputy foreign minister and a representative of Royal Mounted Canadian Police
Yeah.
met with India's national security advisor in Singapore. I am not sure whether such a meeting happened or did not happen, but if it happened, it should not have happened in Singapore. Uh, they should have been asked to come to Delhi, wait for an appointment, and present the evidence. So it becomes a he said, she said kind of situation. And since there were three of them against one, I don't know, but that is what is alleged. So I think there is need to take this issue a little more seriously and give punitive diplomatic response. And even if India has to take a little bit of disproportionate response, so be it. It will lead to earlier downfall of Justin Trudeau government because we know what he is doing. He is playing to two different audience. One audience is his Khalistani vote bank. Second is Five Eye Alliance, under whose skirt he hides, generally by saying that I have intelligence information from Five Eye Alliance.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for this insightful discussions. You have clarified many of our doubts actually. So at this point, we are going to wrap up this discussion. So thank you, friends. As we wrap up of this important discussions on the India-Canada diplomatic row, it is clear that this issue goes beyond just allegations and counter-allegations. It touches on deeper concerns related to national security, sovereignty, and international diplomacy. For India, maintaining its territorial integrity, addressing external threats like the Khalistan movement are non-negotiable, while managing global relations remains a delicate balancing act. The evolving nature of geopolitics requires India to respond strategically, not only to protect its own interests, but also to engage with global powers in a way that upholds its image and influence on world stage. The question raised today reminds us that diplomacy is much about safeguarding the present as it is about shaping the future. So I would like to thank our guest, Dr. Adityanjee, for sharing their valuable insights and to our listeners for joining us in the important conversation. Stay tuned to Bharat and Geopolitics for more in-depth discussion on global issues impacting India and its role in the world. Until next time, stay informed and engaged.
I'll just make last minute comment. Government of India should seriously take Michael Rubin's suggestion about declaring Canada as a state sponsor of terrorism.
Yes, sir. But there must be a tight slap on, say, on the face of Canada so that the others also take a lesson from it. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So we'll be meeting again soon on a new topic.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Hardeep Singh Najjar.